Right, I think we're live, aren't we? Yes,
You are.
we are. Hurrah! Hello, everybody, and welcome to another DHTV, Disability Horizons TV. Tonight, we have a very special show. It's a show we were meant to have last time, but that we cocked up. So, without further ado, it's time for Disability and Fashion here on DHTV. Play it. I was going to say it saves us doing another jingle, but you've actually done another jingle. Nice one, mate. Dear. Anyway, I'm Mick Scarlett, and today I am joined, as ever, by the wonderful Zec the Tech Richardson. Say hello, Zec.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, here again. As I say, I forgot to send out the invites last week because I was unwell, and I forgot to tell Mick that I forgot to send out the invites because I was unwell.
I forgot to send
and
out
he wasn't
the invites,
well, so he forgot to remind me.
We were the useless twins last week.
We were. So yes, good evening.
But luckily,
we'll give it another go.
We are, and luckily we have sent out the invites. Unfortunately, one of our guests can't make it because, to be honest, they've been running around all week, sort of shouting the good shout about disability and fashion. So we have one of our guests with us, and that is the wonderful Kat from Seated Sewing. Hello, Kat. Hello.
Good evening.
Right. So you've been running around all over the place, haven't you? Trying to spreading the news of kind of inclusive fashion with Victoria from Unhidden Clothing.
We've covered a fair few miles this week. Mm-hmm.
Is it London Fashion Week now? Is it?
It is,
Week?
Yes.
Is it? See,
so it kicked off yesterday.
Oh, I'm all heartbroken, you see, because when I was young and beautiful, I used to get invited to it every year and sit there in the front with my glasses on. And then one year he says, I'll show you the picture in a bit. I was modelling at it. But now I'm just an old has-been, so no one talks about me anymore.
Oh, we'll invite you next time.
No, it's okay. Yes, please. So that, so I can represent the older disabled person.
Of course. Spread the demographic.
Dear. That's it. So anyway, tell us a little bit about Seated Sewing. What is it that you do?
Well, I'm a wheelchair user and I sew, so hence the funky name.
It's not going to be one of those interviews, is it, Kat?
No.
I sit and I sew. Oh, no.
as inventive as my website name, sat on my butt.
Yeah, we've not had a great amount of sleep in all of this travelling around the country, so it could be one of those interviews. No, so I started sewing when I became disabled because I couldn't find any clothing that I wanted that was suitable to wear, really. And so, I'd been making clothes for myself and pattern hacking, and then I've started making it I now do bespoke makes for other disabled customers, so limb difference or short stature.
I mean, Mick mentioned this last week, didn't you? Mick said he did fashion at college, and so he's done sewing because he finds it easier to alter a lot of his clothes because you can't find the stuff you need out there.
You cannot. No, they're not. There's no adaptive wear on the high street anywhere.
There was one I mentioned last week. I think now Tommy Hilfiger are doing an adaptive range. Kind of. It's not great.
They are.
It's not.
I don't know it's sportswear, so I wouldn't be seen dead in
it.
I have to stick.
It's not at a very accessible price point, unfortunately.
No, I mean
none of it ever is.
It's funny, isn't it? Because that's the big thing I always think about fashion is when I was really into it when I was younger, I couldn't afford all the really expensive stuff. So that was another reason why I wanted to make my own clothes, because I could make kind of knockoffs of the really expensive stuff that I really wanted to buy, and it would fit because I've always been a big old guy. I'm Irish descent. I'm in a wheelchair. I've got a big old unit sort of upper half and then tiny little lower half. So that's sort of, and so you couldn't go into a shop and go, excuse me, do you have this in a 48 chest, but only in a 32-inch waist? No, sorry, you don't. Yeah. So I used to make knockoffs, and I love the idea of pattern bashing, because that's exactly what I used to do. That's what I kind of studied to get enough knowledge to be able to do that. That's it.
I know nothing about. So, what is pattern bashing, guys? Come on.
You go out and find a pattern and bash it. No, it's not. Tell us what it is.
You see, so I call it pattern hacking, but pattern bashing. So what it would be taking a pattern that you would get off the high street, but it would be adding to it or taking away, so it actually fits your body or the shape that you need it to be.
Okay, so it's those paper things that you all fold out and go around and cut all the bits out, but great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Phone buttons. That's it.
Oh well, it's a start.
Yeah, that's where it starts. That's how you begin. It's funny because I was thinking about this today. I started doing all that stuff at school when I could still walk, but I wore a caliper because the metal brace used to rub through my trousers, and because we couldn't afford to buy me trousers every week, my mum and I would darn patches into the holes that had been torn, and I would end up taking needle and thread to school so that I could fix them at school in break. And that's sort of where I started doing it. So, and it's funny that we have to do that stuff still, because this was something that I think is really interesting. Is that, you and Victoria have been going around spreading the word, doing shows now, but it's still a totally untapped market, isn't it?
Completely. And we just sit in rooms going, we can't understand why it hasn't hit the high street. It's a massive market, and there's a huge need for it, and we shouldn't have to be making our own clothes just to find things that fit or that we're comfortable with, or getting parents to make clothes for their kids. It's just wrong.
Because now I'm going to say to Zec, could you show my screen, because I'm going to be all braggy for a second. So this.
There we go. There's the stream.
So this is me at London Fashion Week in 1996. I am modelling for a designer called Dane. Most of the clothes there I'm modelling are mine, I must admit. Everything from the waist down is mine. But the top is a nylon print that he went on to design all the clothes for Spice Girls for the Spice World tour. So that's me. As I said last week to Zec, much to Zec's mirth, I used to wear clothes that Spice Girls used to wear, and that's me in one.
You won't believe some of the stuff he said he's got.
Oh yes, and that's me in
falling out his wheelchair,
doing a wheelie, trying to look like Billy Idol but failing. And that's again me in my model's own clothes, but the top is something or other. And that's me in the Times fashion supplement in about 1993, I think. So we can go back to normal now. Thank you. That's enough of me. Hooray!
We'll never go back to normal.
But one of the things I think that's really funny is like, when I heard about you and I heard about sort of Victoria, and I heard about a lot of the other younger people that are doing this, like, disabled models, disabled fashion, it shocks me, because I remember being part of a huge campaign to do this in the early 90s, and there was another company that was doing exactly what you and Victoria were doing, these shaking patterns, doing bespoke designs, doing off the peg stuff that has, and yet, I mean, I was in my 20s. I mean, that's, prehistoric. All the things were there. Dinosaurs.
Jesus was a lad.
Jesus, that's it. Me and Jesus and the gang hung around, broke bread. It was all very good. So it's that long ago, and yet we still...
He showed off at walk on water. It was like, I can't even walk on land, you cheeky bugger.
That's it. See, he kept coming and said, "Can I cue you?" And I said, "Not a chance, mate. I'm going to make a career out of this one day." But anyway, let's...
Anyway,
no, we're not doing Monty Python.
We're not doing Monty Python.
Young people don't know Monty Python. We already know that. That's been told to us by the Tory government. Anyway, so why is it, do you think, that the fashion industry just never, ever picks up on us as a market?
I think there's a number of reasons. I think they're very scared of the D word. They don't like talking about disability.
No.
I don't think they see us as being fashionable or sexy or good looking enough to deem us to need fashion that we're happy in. We were interviewed yesterday, and somebody said to us, well, after all, the uniform of the disabled person is the tracksuit, isn't it? And it's like, yeah, and this is why that no one goes into it. It's like, it's ridiculous.
Have they not seen the disabled people that we've got out there representing us? Tanny, for one, who always looks lovely, tracksuits.
See, this again, you see, is one of my reasons why I'm always a grumpy sod about Paralympians, because when I was young and famous, Paralympians were nobodies, and it was all about musicians, and there was a load of disabled musicians that were really outrageous, and we were really into fashion. And then as the Paralympians grew, then there was this kind of, oh well, tracksuit, sports stuff. That's what you do, isn't it? Sport.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, even the Paralympians wear really nice clothes to go to dinners and award ceremonies. And it's, the thing is, at the end of the day, you are right. You said it exactly. Disabled. They're scared of the word.
Yeah.
And lots of people campaigning at the moment, I've found, won't use it. Even like models of diversity. I've done a load of stuff with them. I love them, but they still insist on going abled models, and then the dis is crossed out. And it's like, no, if we were abled models, we'd be bloody models. The reason why we're disabled models is because we aren't on the catwalk. We aren't in the magazines. We aren't thought of as being the kind of people that will wear fashionable clothes.
Plus, as we've said before, Mick, the media has done such a good job of pushing us down into the dirt as scroungers, no good for nothing, with all these papers and all these stupid shows on TV, that it has lowered what people think of us, and they don't really care, do they?
And I mean, they say, we've also heard it quite a bit, oh, it's a niche, it's a very small market, it's a niche. Well, yeah, but 1 in 5 in the UK are disabled. Well, that's a very big niche if that's what the class is a niche.
The thing is as well, I mean, I think the thing is when you think about it, there are the niches that need the adapted stuff is when you just say disabled, it is niche. But what they forget is actually a dress that's easy to put on for someone with limited dexterity due to an impairment is exactly the same as someone who's getting older and finds zipping up a dress difficult or buttoning up a shirt difficult. So it's not actually about disabled people. It's about saying, let's make fashion for the one market that's got more money than anyone else. Old people, he says, proudly entering his 57th year and now officially being a silver surfer in all ways. So, I think that's the thing I don't get, is it's always, they kind of go disabled and they think about a very extreme example.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes, I think, can also be in the models they pick. Do you know what I mean? They don't pick a load of models and say, oh, well, Jeremy's autistic or Samantha's, visually impaired or hearing impaired. It's got to be, everyone seems to want to get their pound's worth out of the disabled model by getting someone that's very, obviously disabled. But then they also go, well, I haven't seen anyone like him knocking around, especially at all the gorgeous, glamorous parties that they think is what everyone goes to.
Or they stick with the usual amputee, a leg amputee or an arm amputee, or born with a limb difference. It seems to be the one that they then tend to go for.
Jack, he's a good mate of mine, and I love it, but I don't get why whenever he does any modelling, he always rolls up his trouser leg on his suits, and it's like, would you do that normally? I've got a false leg, and it's like, yeah, but you just walk down the street in a suit, wouldn't you? I don't get it. I mean, other than the fact you're trying. I mean, when he did that robot show, did you see the robot show that Jack did?
No, I didn't. No.
Where he had a robot piece on and an eye bit, and it was gorgeous. It looked really smart and it was really clever. And Victoria Modesta, she's amazing. I mean, the fashions that she wears is just stunning. If anyone captures the fact that disabled people can be amazingly fashionable, it's Victoria Modesta. She's fantastic. Now, one of our viewers has said, do you have any examples of companies that do good disability clothing, like good examples? I mean, obviously, other than yourself and Unhidden Clothing, obviously, available at rates online now.
I know, well, in the UK, not so much. In the States and in Australia, there's a lot. I mean, in America now, Target have got it in the high street.
Oh, wow.
So, and it's like, that is what we need, because then the price point comes down and you can walk in and anyone can get it.
Tell you the other thing, Zec, when you go shopping in America, their small is our large.
What are you saying?
Well, we both had this discussion. We've had this discussion last time. Our days of going into the slim section have long gone. And you go in. I remember going in New York and going into it was when ER was really popular, and they had a whole range of ER scrubs as pajamas for guys.
Oh, lovely!
And it was like you could just see the whole clogs whirring in the marketing department. Go, well, if we make them for bed, this is going to work, right? So all the guys have got these scrubs for bed. And the smallest waist size they do is 38. That's the smallest. And it was like, oh my God, wow. I'm in heaven. So it was great.
Okay, I mean, can you tell people, I mean, for those people that are watching and they don't know, let's take the most obvious ones. As a seated user, a pair of trousers, what would have to be different to a pair of trousers for us to be most comfortable in them?
It's all about where the fabric is and where we don't need fabric. So when you're sat all day, clothes are actually designed to be walked in or to be stood up in. So that they look amazing going down a runway. But when you're sat in them, that they don't fit. So we need to have more fabric at our back so we don't end up with drafty backs. We need the fronts of the trousers to actually be lower, so people that have got colostomies can actually access them. And also behind the knee is a place that we need to take fabric away from, and they need to be longer in the leg length for sitting.
Yeah, sorry, I'm dancing on the ceiling for the leg length thing because I have a 38-inch leg standing up.
So, yeah, strangely, Mik is 6'3".
I'm all leg.
6'3" with a 38-inch leg, and I'm 6'4" with a 32-inch leg.
Oh,
yes.
Wow.
So,
I'm sat on the floor.
and the annoying thing is when you buy trousers, they're great, and then you put them on, and they're so high up your calves.
Yeah.
But you look like you're following the Bay City Rollers. Now, this is another fashion reference that no young people will get. But the Bay City Rollers wore what were called ankle swingers, and their trousers were cut to come to their calves so you could see their snack boots and their bright socks. Not a good look,
no,
really.
So
then,
what about
let alone
seaming, Kat? You know, I always hear about, they say, you know, seams, invisible seams. Now, I'm going to admit, I've got to lose some weight to get into them. They're a pair of shorts, and I brought them from a military suppliers for the sheer fact that they've got a triple sewn bum. It's like a round bit in the bum.
Okay.
So it's literally for hard wear for military. And I thought, perfect for me bum shuffling. I've got to get in them. What about seams and everything? Because that seems to be, the problems. You know, we don't want pockets on the back because they're going to go. We don't want studs and belt loops and stuff like that. But what about seams? Is there anything you can do with seams to make them less sort of? Ooh.
So yeah, they don't have to be as bulky. You can get fabrics nowadays that are just one continuous sewn piece of fabric, which has got a lot of lycra in them. But I tend to make my seams as thin as possible. So I'll use the right width, but then I'll cut them once I've made them and trim them down so that they don't, because you can get a lot of skin issues if you end up with seams rubbing or they're too tight to you.
And that still creates a very, as I say, I know nothing about fashion, that still creates a very good bond, does it? Even though it's a thinner seam.
Yes, yeah.
Because, you know,
it's funny.
It's all on the stitch you use.
Yeah.
Right.
I've got a pair of the Rolitex jeans, and all the things you said about them, they have. I find them to be overly engineered in like the bum is too big and the knee tightness is too tight, and they don't have any. They don't have any material. They don't have anywhere for the jewels. There's not for me. I've got none in mine. I'm pretty sure that the guy that sold me them thought I'll get him, and he sold me a pair of very expensive ladies' trousers because there's nowhere to put the old gentleman and machinery.
Mine are really baggy in the front. It's like
no. I to be honest, what I like to do is I now wear. I found a really great line of stretch jeans from. Sports Direct that are really cheap. They've got really long legs and they've got a bit around the back. They're like motorbike jeans, but for fashion, if you know what I mean. But they've got the stretchy bit on the panel on the knee to give you the extra stretch in the knee. They're really nice, elasticated, and they kind of move. Another tip, if you want, folks, is wear leather. Right, because leather stretches.
So you leather, not me.
You buy leather. When I used to wear leather, I want to be like, oh yeah, Mick, leather. And it was like, no, I started wearing leather because it didn't wear out, so I didn't have to keep buying trousers. And then I found that when you sit in them all day, the bum stretches, the knees stretch. I gave it to a pair to a mate of mine to wear to a party. He put them on, and we went, no, you can't wear them, because he had a big pointy ass and big pointy knees. It was so they stretch, and then that way they fit you brilliantly. But you do have to give it the time. You have to give it about 3 months of wearing them to give. But that was a tip I did.
Is the market too diverse, Kat? Are our disabilities too widespread to start creating, here is an off-the-rail set of clothing? Because I want this and I want that. Mick would want this and that. Someone says colostomy. Someone says I'm catheterizing. There's all these issues. Yeah. Is it too much? Is this the problem?
No, I don't personally think it is. I think it would be possible to come up with a basic range that would cover off the majority of disabilities. And I mean, the thing is if you've got a catheter and a colostomy, or if clothes are cut to deal with them, and you don't have them, it doesn't matter. It's no loss to you. You're not going to wear something and go, do you know what, that's really baggy because they should have a catheter bag there, or the colostomy. You're not going to know. It's just going to have the room that it needs to grow should your bag grow. But I think if you're trying to deal with every single disability, and there's some, I don't think we could cater to every single disabled group, because you're always going to have individuals where their disability is so complex that some adjustment's going to have to be made to them.
Yeah.
We've got Ian who said in one of our messages on the comment board, surely bespoke clothing is possible, and you're correct, it is. All you need to do is go to seatedsewing.co.uk and you can order some.
Okay.
See, just forget that, dear. So remember that, Ian, go there. That's where you want to go. And I think that, I mean, I really love this pattern thing. I think that that's something, and it might not be something you can do. You might not have the dexterity, you might not have that kind of stuff, but it's stuff that you can do with someone. And I'm now going to show you a pair of jeans that I've bashed, and I'll show you what I've done as I go. Right. So the first one is,
let's get Mick large. Let's I've forgotten how to do it.
So zips are difficult. Flies are difficult, folks. So I sew a zip on the outside of the fly. That way it's easy to do up. It's lovely. Okay, and then we go down and we've got to, where are we? Nice little pocket off another pair of trousers sewn onto the middle of my leg so I can put my phone in it and it won't drop out. It's lovely. Plastic on the knees to stop wearing out. Okay, and then they've been lengthened to the world's longest trousers. Look how long they are. Yes, and these are great. So they're rock and roll jeans that I did up myself with a bit of old PVC and
sticky back plastic.
Here's one I made earlier.
Ironically, there is actually some sticky back plastic on there. Here you go. So, but the thing is, that's the thing. I think that when they do a lot of this kind of clothing that is adaptive, that's the bit they focus on, and it's like, no, I want the fashion bit. Mm-hmm. That's the important bit, and then we can do that, modify stuff. We can come to someone like you and say, I've got these jeans, I love them, but they're a bit dodgy for this. Can you adapt them? And the answer is, you can do anything with that kind of stuff.
So that's you do adapting. I could send you, I've got these and they're really uncomfortable.
Yeah, these don't work for me. Like what I've done before is people that have got, so if they've got a colostomy, but they found a pair of jeans they really like, and they're quite high-waisted, we can take the waist off and we put in like a yoga waist, or for women as well, you can wear maternity trousers because they have this stretchy panel in them, and that fits around your disability because they have the elastic exactly where you need them.
Well, something we talked about last time, quite extensively, was underwear.
We did.
If you missed it, you missed the 10 minutes fashion show of our underwear. No, we weren't wearing them, folks. Sorry. Don't rush back and try and find it because you're not going to get the joy of seeing Zec and me in our pants. But underwear, I think, especially for women, I know a lot of my disabled female friends say underwear just doesn't work because it's, bras around the back. Knickers that don't. I mean, I still work out how you actually pull up your underwear when you're in a wheelchair, to be honest. And I've been in my chair 41 years.
No, how do you do that?
It's like ridiculous.
You're on the toilet. How do you get? I mean, I'm lucky. On a good day, I can stand for 15 seconds. A good day, so I can get away with it with a quick wallop and in him. But yeah.
Never do it on the toilet. You learn that very soon on.
Very
gentlemen,
quickly.
Don't do it on the toilet. You will land on stuff you don't want to land on, and it won't be good. And sometimes you can catch.
Well, I thought I'd done it on the toilet a while back, and I pulled up my trousers and realised I'd gone under the seat somehow.
Oh no!
Yes, the number of times that's happened to me is quite painful. But is that something that's happening? Because I know I've seen Sam Rink show some new ranges of underwear, like period pants, so that you don't have to worry about. That kind of what tell us a bit about that, because obviously me and Zec don't really know a lot about.
I mean, an added awfulness for women, being disabled, it must really add another level.
Yeah, it's a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. But those period pants are great for people that have got mild incontinence, or if you've got an indwelling catheter, but you get an infection. Because your catheter can bypass, so things like that work really well. You can get pants as well now that have got like front fasteners or side fasteners. So if you can't pull your pants up yourself, that's another option, is that you put them on with fasteners. And bras, you can get front fastening bras, magnetic front fastening. So you can get bras that have got loops on. So if you haven't got the dexterity for smaller movements, then you can get them. So
my wife was talking about a bra that wraps around and velcros on rather than does up, apparently.
Yeah, there's So Elba in London, that's a UK based company, and she does adaptive underwear and bras that way.
We'll have to pick your brains after the show. If you send us a few of these websites, we'll stick them on the comments at the end so that people can get them. And there you go. And someone has said
Slip Chicks is great as well.
Cool. Yeah. So because we've now decided that British boxers are the most British boxers most comfortable for sitting down. Me too.
It's my turn to wear them. See, I didn't know. I've now my wife's got me into watching the Sewing Bee. And this week just gone, they made underwear. Now I know it sounds stupid. I'm like, it's stupid. How can you make underwear? Oh, somebody makes bloody underwear. Do you know what I mean? You don't think of people at home making their own underwear. You always think of that as always being a shop brought thing.
No, not at all. And the beauty is you can get hold of some beautiful natural fabrics, and then that takes away because one of the problems I've got sitting in a chair all the time is you get hot and you sweat because for some reason all of your chair is made of plastic, and then they don't think if you sat on it for 20 hours of the day what's going to happen. Like, come on, guys.
It gets unpleasant, doesn't it? It does get unpleasant on a warm day.
You know, the thing I really hate is when you go, right, I really got to now wash my cushion cover. So you take your cushion cover off, and then you wash it, and then you're left without a cushion cover.
With just a gel.
They never send you another cushion cover, and so then you're like, so now you're sitting on a gel pad covered in plastic. I've got my cushion is covered in a plastic hygiene cover, and so you're like, woo.
Yeah, you go sliding on it.
Yeah. Mine's just straight down to that gel thing, but yeah,
it's weird, isn't it? It's weird. See, this is again. Whole market. And what annoys me, when I bought my last cushion, it was 250 quid, and it's basically just a foam block. It's not flash, it's not gel, it's not anything. And it's such a huge amount of money that just You know, so all these people going, well, is there a market? It's like, yes, there is, because we're so used to paying exorbitant sums of money.
It doesn't have to cost that much. It costs that much because they don't think it's the market. So there's a market. So they're like, we'll charge more. We'll move less units and we'll charge more. And it's like, really, if you give a proper price for it, you'd actually shift more units. And have better, happier customers than.
Yeah, I mean, the Rollertex trousers are like €90.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the Rollertex, like I said, I think they're an extreme of what's required. I think you could make something in between your bog standard front and back being the same length and everything being normal for non-disabled people, and what we need. That means that the country that's filled with people of all different shapes would have a choice that then we could also have a choice within. I think that's the thing, is it's kind of, they always think, like Tommy Hilfiger, it's got to have special poppers and a thing down the side, and it's all, it's special and it's disabled. And it's like, no, what we want is for you to stop doing stuff for stick thin, tiny, sort of, you know, model type people or young people, and start thinking about the whole market. And we're part of that market. And, you know, older people don't, you know, whether you like it or not, as you get older, you get different size bits and pieces, and you know, you'd like clothes that made you look good in that, but that then we could also wear, you know, a shorter jackets or longer trousers or shorter trousers or wider trousers or trousers that stretch with you, or all these things would be beneficial to everybody. It is that ghettoization, I think, that they do, because let's face it, you've been in those rooms, I've been in those rooms. Okay, we're going to do inclusive fashion. And everyone in the room goes, oh. And then you realise that everyone in the room is exactly the same. They're all about size 10, size 8.
Yeah.
and they're all very young. And the idea, well, if I ever get that big, I'll kill myself. It's writ large on their body. You know, what do you mean? You might end up in a wheelchair. Well, if that ever happens to me, oh, that's it. I'll jump off a building or something.
But like plus size models who you see in magazines, they are still only a 12 or a 14 tops. Normally they're 10s or 12s, because they look so much bigger than your standard size zeros. And it's like, a 12 is not.
Yeah, my wife says
to
me, "Oh, come on, look at her arms. They're just perfectly fine. Where are people with arms?"
Right. Do you know what? I mean, because you must have had this too, Kate. When you meet these models, one of the things you notice is they're all really, really tall. So actually, when you get a size 8 or a size 6, these girls aren't size 6. Like my wife's a size 8, but she's 5'6". If this girl is 6'2" and is that thin, she's so thin. So when you say, "Oh, it's a size 12," a 6'2" woman who's a size 12 is actually really, really thin, because she's giant. They're huge people. They walk into a room and they tower above everyone.
Yeah.
So when, you know, to be like a catwalk model and to say, "Oh, you're a size 14," is kind of, well, actually, that's probably a healthy weight. That's probably the weight you should be for that height.
For that height.
Plus size, you're just not actually so thin that people should start worrying and going, "You probably need some help." So it's always amazed me whenever you meet models. Wow, you're really tall.
Yeah, well, the first runway I'd been to was Victoria's show in February. I'd never been to a catwalk show before, and I got the shock of my life when I first saw runway models, because, like you said, they looked like they could snap. I was so worried for their lives. I'm like, but apparently they were fine. They were healthy, and this is what they do.
Yeah,
but I'm like,
no, I'm sorry. Like I said, I've known a few catwalk models, and I would say they were healthy within their own culture.
Yes, I agree.
Within their society, they're a healthy bunch. But that's the cotton wool and coffee breakfast. Was something that a lot of my friends would have, and you'd be like, "You're taking cotton." Yes, but the thing is, it's not like, because it's
what I'm saying is, it's down to people. Because going back to when I'm sort of like between 18 and 22, you look to the look at her with a slim figure, and you look at anyone that's got the slightest bit of curve to them, you sort of like, and I know that I was that awful person back then, and. Do you know what I mean? I look back and I'm like, these things. What would you say to a younger you? So punch him.
But I think that's because that's what
fed.
everyone's grown up with, and that's what's in the media.
Yeah.
You go to. I worked in Africa for a while, and you go to Africa, and people like that, they think they're not well. They want curves. That means you're well fed. That means you've got a beautiful body.
Yeah.
And they look at the English and they're like, but she's got no shape. That's not healthy. And it's like, so
and you can't beat some curves, can you? You want to get a cuddle.
If you think the female models are thin and unhealthy, the male models were unbelievably unhealthy because they had to maintain a body shape that was both really well ripped and absolutely tiny. Over a 28, they were considered 28-inch waist. They were considered big, so they had to be built, stacked. And it was like
over a 28-inch waist. Back when I was healthy, back when I was working as a firefighter, I think it was a 32-inch waist. There was nothing of me.
Yeah,
because I was running all the time.
Because you're the kind of height of a model, so that's exactly it. So this is the thing we think about. We hear their sizes, and this. What I mean is that this creates an impossible and unachievable concept of what fashion is for. Completely. And I think we are at the extreme end of that. That no one in fashion thinks. I mean, it's part of the reason why everyone was always kind of, oh wow, when they met me, because I was really fashionable in the 90s, really outrageous, really dressed up, and everyone was like, I was gorgeous. I'll just cut back to that picture now. And it was, and everyone in the room would be like, well, I've never met anyone like you. Are there more? And you'd be like, yeah, there's loads. Yeah, they're just, they're not in your orbit. And I think it's why I love it now, because I love seeing Sam and Sophie Morgan and Addie and all of those people going out and being fashionable.
Yep.
Because rather than it being just like this one weird nutcase on television covered in studs, it's becoming more normalized. Do you think, Kat, that it's going to happen? Do you think we're finally going to see a change? And
yes, and more yes. Even from just the change that we're starting to see from February, and I know I've got some exciting collaborations coming up. Victoria has, and the conversations that are going on, I'm really, really hopeful that things are going to change. And I think there's enough of us out there shouting and saying, how this isn't enough, this isn't good enough. It's 2022. I should be allowed to wear what makes me feel good and look good. And it's not right that I shouldn't have this choice.
Yep.
So
do you know what? I think that's the best bit about this, because what it used to be a long time ago was there was very few of us doing it. And I love the fact that now there's a growing vocal voice that the industry can't ignore. That we
also had a big change in disability. We had the Gulf Wars, where we had a lot of people becoming disabled who were people at the peak of their fitness, who got incredible recovery options through the military, and so they came out kind of almost being like super disabled. Do you know what I mean? The representation changed from born with a disability or crashes to these people that were suddenly, we were seeing them everywhere, weren't we? They were thrust into the spotlight because everyone was so interested. And I think that did change perceptions a little bit. It's increased inclusion on the TV. I mean, is it JJ Chalmers?
Yeah.
He's everywhere. Everywhere you turn on, JJ Chalmers is there. And
it's funny though, isn't it? Because there's that you're talking about. There's someone that actually can wear just normal clothes, but will probably have trouble doing them up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's funny because, again, we're back to that problem that there's either people like us, wheelchair users, that are the go-to thought, or there's just normal. And you're like, no, there's actually a massive market for people that have issues doing up their own buttons, and because that's something that happens to older people. And there's a lot of them about, and there's more every day, he says, joining them. And that's the market, I think, that they miss out on. And we're just part of that market, but we can be younger. But those adaptations suit everyone. What tips? We always like to leave. We're coming up to the end. And this is what tips?
We are.
Yeah, we are. It's been a good show. It's been fantastic. What tips, Kat, do you have for disabled people wanting to follow fashion?
Find clothes that represent you. Find clothes that express who you are and what you do, and don't shy away from it. You don't have to be. I think when you're disabled, you're always told, aren't you? Oh, well, you're not going to amount to much, or you can't do this and you can't do that. Actually, you can do as much as you want. The only thing that doesn't work for me, my legs don't work, but I am still the girl I was before I was made disabled. So I still express myself the way I do now is with my clothes or my hair, but you can't see it's all straight back. But normally, so just be brave and wear whatever expresses the way that you are, and wear it with pride.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's what I've always thought is, we know if you've got a visible impairment, if people can see that you're disabled from looking at it, they're going to stare. And so I always said, right, if you're going to stare, I'm going to give you something to stare at. Yeah. So the longer when I first went in the chair, I was quite outrageous. I wanted to be a new romantic. I finally said to my parents, look, I can't get a job now, so I can dye my hair. So I did, and I really freaked out. But then I got weirder and weirder and weirder and weirder. And genuinely, at one point, people stopped noticing, they didn't go, oh, wheelchair. They went, look at the state of you. And it was sort of, that was a kind of triumphant moment.
I looked through your photos and I found that green coat you were talking about last week.
Yeah, my green coat is fantastic. And that's another one.
He wasn't exaggerating.
No, it's a green floor-length fun fur coat, and it's so great for wheelchairs because it's so long. It covers all down at your feet. It's lovely, and it's so snuggly. It's like a teddy bear. I should have gone and got it.
We were talking last time. This subject brought us on to wheelchair users and people not realising how wet you get when it rains. And Mick saying, it all puddles where you don't want it to puddle. But, I mean, what is the answer to that with cloak? Maybe it's the leather that Mick said. But, you just can't prepare, can you? Well, you can. You've always got a pair of waterproofs in your rucksack. But
you have, but I'm dead against. I really don't like wheelchair capes. I think they're horrid things. But what I have seen recently is it's almost like a two-piece, and it's a coat that comes down, and it's made out of obviously waterproof fabric, but it's breathable. And then it's almost like a skirt you pull over, but it's
like a kayaking kind of skirt type thing.
Almost, but it's structured in such a way that you don't have anywhere that the water can puddle, because of the way that they've put the darts in, and it's cut. And it's great because you don't end up with a lap full of water puddles.
Funny enough, actually, Zec, you reminded me, you were talking about soldiers. I found a solution a while back. It's gone now because, to be honest, I lost it at a festival and I put it down and didn't pick it up. But I bought a military camouflage raincoat, the ones with a strap underneath.
Yep.
That you do up, that soldiers wear, and basically you do it up and pop it together, and that keeps you dry.
Military clothing, military surplus clothing is actually really good. I found for me, it's tough, it's hard wearing. I have to take pockets off the back and stuff, but it's
the hard wearing that we need.
You don't get soldiers with a belly this big. That's the problem, but.
But you do, but they've normally left.
No, I'm in a wheelchair, so I just don't do them up. I just put the t-shirt over the waistband.
See, the only problem with dressing in military gear is that then everyone comes up to you and goes, "So which war was it?" And you have to go, "Cancer."
The marriage of '98.
Yes, so it's like
Or you buy 2 or 3 of the jackets, and then we sew them together.
That's good. Do you know what? I do that a lot. If I find something that works, I buy lots of them.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a wardrobe full of clothes. They're still in bags, ready for when one wears out that I can get the next one. So that's the answer.
I'm buying myself a pair of 2 pairs of military surplus trousers, and I'm going to be contacting you.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Brilliant. Now we've got a few. I was going to say a few messages. I know that Katie's been going on about confidence, and there's lots about confidence, actually.
Katie was talking about also materials, saying some materials just make it a little bit spiky.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, there will be, I mean, autistic people, there's going to be sensory issues, colour stuff. There's so much about this subject that, of course, we will come back to it because, I'm aiming to see if I can turn this into a kind of weird Frocks on the Box type program. Another program that no one knows what I'm talking about because I'm so old. It used to be presented by Marie Helvin. She was fantastic.
Oh, I remember her.
Yeah, Marie.
She was lovely.
Helvin. Welcome to Frocks on the Box. It's great. But what I did, I'm just a little me bit. I think, don't worry about not being confident. People look at me and they go, "Oh, you're confident." I am nowhere near as confident as I sound or act. It's just that I realised long ago that saying I don't feel confident enough isn't going to hurt anyone but you. So if you want to wear a silly red jacket, Sophie, then you go out and buy a silly red jacket and wear it, because Sodom, the only way they see you in a red jacket and go, wow, they must be really confident. You might be dying inside, but it doesn't matter, because as my wife always reminds me, it's what's on the outside that counts.
Ferrari red?
Ferrari red jacket.
I'm on disability benefits. Mine's more Skoda red.
Mine's Halford car paint red. I actually used to do that as well. Get cans of car paint with your jeans, spray them, and car paint makes your jeans really thick and hard wearing, and it means that they don't wear out.
Oh, well, so I'd never heard that one.
You do look like you've been attacked by a graffiti artist, but still, it's quite cool.
That's mixed fashion.
Yeah, that's my style, really. Been attacked by someone anyway.
We were very different, back in sort of, I suppose, around about 20 years old. I had a pair of chinos on, deck shoes, kind of. So Mick and I were slightly different, very slightly
Ironically,
different.
My best mate used to wear chinos and deck shoes, and we used to go everywhere together. I looked like an extra from Sid and Nancy, and he looked like an extra from Club Tropicana, and we went everywhere together. And it meant basically whenever we went to a club, we always, the girls we got off with had different tastes, so it was all right. It was a clever way of making sure that we weren't fighting over the same girls. And let's face it, folks, that's really all fashion's about. We could all just wear any old clothes, but looking good. It's about the peacock. You're there. Look at me. I'm sexy. And we are sexy. So do it. Don't think you can't do it. And now with wonderful people like Kat around, you can get your clothes, contact her. She can modify them. And it's going to be brilliant. So be fashionable, be funky, and be wonderful. And be with us next time. Look at that. It's a professional coming out for our next Disability Horizon TV.
Hang on, let me bring him on screen.
Yeah. He's hiding in a corner. In fact, here he is. It's a little straight. Oh, you can't see because it's too bright. And the lights went out. But it's a little alien thing that I've got. Anyway, wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on, Kat. You've been fantastic.
Thanks so much for asking. It's been a blast.
It's been really great. And you've been a mine of education and information. Fantastic.
If only we thought to have you on last week, it would have been
better.
Yeah,
it would have been, although it would have actually meant that you would have had to sit through a 5-minute discussion about underpants, which
I know, and the sun hadn't been out there, so that episode only aired this week.
So thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, Zec, for being brilliant and technical and lovely. And one day we'll get your camera to work so you can get your green screen to work.
I've given up.
And we can see the mansion you actually really do live in.
Wait, that's it. You see what behind that screen is a massive industrial.
He has staff and he has chefs.
It's all of.
Hang on, the butler's coming in. Just not yet.
Because let's face it, that's what all the television tells everyone, isn't it? They've got loads of money with all those
benefits and proud.
That's it. And yes, we don't know what we're doing next time. We haven't made it up yet. So
I did ask one. I said to people, give us your questions. I'll pull them out of a hat. You can ask us literally anything. And we've got questions coming in. We've had quite a few already.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's good. So next week will be potluck. Next time will be potluck.
Next fortnight.
So tune in for that. Next fortnight.
26th.
Probably.
No.
And the really good bit is at the moment I don't have anything planned the night before, so I won't be hungover as I am right now. So I think I've done very well. So thank you again, Kat. Thank you, MZTV. Thank you, wonderful viewers. And with that, we will say adieu for now.
Au revoir.
So, bye.
Adieu.